So this is part 2 of our hot water system using the Bobil Vans heat exchanger kit. Last time we got it all assembled and tried it out. Now it's time to insulate the tank and get it all plumbed in so that we can actually start using it and see how well it works.
There we go, spaceship water tank. Going.
It's getting there. We've been doing a lot of tidying up. We have secured all of the ducting in place, so that's all nicely in. We've screwed on the covers there and put all the Jubilee clips on all the way around and secured the bobble down to the floor and also the bobble pump. And then we've also tidied up all of the wires finally that were going to the diesel heater. There was a massive clump that came with that thing, so we've ended up cutting off this bit, which is actually quite a lot. So
it was nearly 3 meters, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it just makes it a lot neater and tidier around there, and then we just pinned it all back. And then we've been doing the piping coming into this area, which is for the pump for the supply line, which is going to go to the shower. So there's going to be a hole around about here in the cabinet, and then the pipe comes out of the tank, and then along here, through this shut-off valve, which we've just put there so that we can isolate the pump area, then down into the pump, and then it's going to go this way through the accumulator and back out along here and then up this pipe up to the shower. And then we've just put a non-return valve on that one because we didn't want the cold water to be able to go back down here and make all our nice hot water cold again. So that worked out pretty good. And then for this setup here, we've done it this way round because the pump is directional and it has to flow this way, and then it will go through the accumulator, which is the same as we had on the cold side. It's the expansion vessel which stops the pump cycling loads. So this is kind of like a mini tank that will fill up with water, and then the idea is as we turn on the shower it will supply from this bit first, which means the pump doesn't come on and off every time you draw a tiny bit of water. So it extends the life of the pump essentially, and just makes the whole system run a bit smoother. So these just screw on there. That's just a 1/2 inch thread on that one. And the wing nuts are really nice actually because you can change the orientation of everything. So we can just put that on there. And then if we put them kind of opposite ways round, then we can actually get them to line up perfectly like that, which is nice. And as you can see, there is exactly the right amount of space to get them both in there. And then for the pipes, we're using the John Guest 12mm Campervan stuff, push fit, which is the exact same stuff we used for the cold water side. The only difference is obviously that one was blue and this one is red. So that's a 1/2 inch thread on there and a push fit on there. So the push fit literally just pushes in. And also, we haven't done it yet, but we're using the inserts on the end there, and that insert just helps ensure that the bit that you've cut is perfectly circular and keeps it nice and round in there, so it just helps prevent any leaks basically. So we've decided to use that on everything. And then this one just screws on there, like that. There we go. So that will just slide in there like that. And then we just need to connect this one up to that one eventually, and that will be the flow. And you might wonder as well why we've got another pump here, because obviously we've already got a pump for the cold water setup. And the reason for that is because the bobble kit we're using, this tank, is not pressurized. So in order to get water out of this tank, we have to have another pump to effectively suck it out and push it into the shower. They do actually make a pressurized tank, which if you get that one, you can just stick it in your van, and then you just need one cold water pump, which will push all the water to your cold taps, and then also go through that tank, and then heat up in kind of the same way with the same heat exchanger type kit, and then supply your hot water pressurized as well. But we haven't got that because we're doing a recirculating shower. So the pressurized one, obviously in most tanks you can't really open up the tank and clean it. Whereas with this, what we can do is unscrew the lid, and we've got a really big access in there that we can just clean out periodically every time we think we need to. Hopefully it won't get too dirty in there, obviously, because it's going through the filter, but it allows us to do that. So yeah, but for us, we've got one pump for the cold, one for the hot going to the shower, and then another pump, which we'll do later on, for the recirculating shower, which is the one that's going to be effectively sucking the water back out of the drain, pulling it through the van, and then back through the filters and into the tank. But yeah, so that's kind of the setup. And then the only other last bit we had to figure out was how we're going to get the 12mm pipe here, which we're using for the waste and the overflow drain, hooked into the waste drain, because ordinarily you wouldn't connect your supply pipe to the drain directly. It's just not really how it works, and that was a bit of a head scratcher, wasn't it? So after a lot of thinking, basically going to Wix and playing around with the entire plumbing aisle for like a long time, what we've come up with, which should actually work pretty well we reckon, is we've bought a little blanking cap for the waste. And it turns out that the cap has just enough surface area on it that we can drill a hole through it and then mount one of the bulkhead connectors for the John Guest stuff into the top of the cap, and it'll just connect up like that and then go straight into the waste pipe system. And then when we do the recirculating shower, we've got to do the inverse, taking the drain and connecting it back up to the supply. So yeah, lots of slightly non-standard things in our van, but
wonderful plumbing issues.
Basically. Don't think we could get much more in there, could we?
No. So before we screw our accumulator down, we have to set it to the right pressure inside to match our pump, which in our case we think is about 17 for this one, and it comes from the factory with the PSI of 10, so we just need to get it up by 7. There we go, just pop that back on there. You're on some kind of film set. Okay, so we've spent a little bit of time just doing the last sort of awkward and fiddly bits, but we think we're nearly there now. So, Tim, how is it going?
Not too bad. Yeah, a lot of odd jobs.
Yeah.
In a very, very tight, cramped space. We've got the tank in on the little stand that we made, and we've also added a strap around it just to keep it nicely in place when we're driving along. And we also we decided to use the extra port on the front for a level gauge, so we drilled that one out, and then we've just put a bit of tube in there, calibrated it in the kitchen by pouring litres of water in and marking it off, so that should work pretty good. And then now we've just been tidying up all of the pipes and the wires, and then we've got the drain coming through, so that's the 32mm push fit waste, and then we had to work out how to go from that position there to the drain on the tank and also connect up the overflow which is on the top. So we had a bit of a play around with our little box, I don't know where it's gone now, with a box of John Guest adapters and supplies, a bit like that bit on Apollo 13 we were trying to get square peg into round hole, and we came up with this. But actually it's going to work pretty good. So what we've got here is the little adapter we made. As you can see, it literally just fits. And then we can get a bit of 32mm waste pipe, like that. And now we have the 12mm John Guest going straight into a 32mm waste. And then all of these pieces, there's so many bends and stuff just so that we can articulate it and get it round the corners we need so that it'll fit in there. And this one is the one coming from the overflow at the top of the tank, and we've done that like this so that it's on this side of the tap, so that obviously even when the tap is closed, because we're not draining the tank, if there is an overflow it will still drain straight out and down the drain. So we've just got to push that down through there and then connect that all up.
There we go.
Nice.
Right, so I think that's all of the tubes and pipes connected now. Quite fiddly. So what we've done is made this little dowel that sort of fits on top of the changer, whatever you call it, like that, and then we can put our little hatch door on the top.
With a few modifications to it.
Yeah, with a few cutouts on top, like this, and that should just sit nicely in there like that, and then you can still change it like that, which I think is pretty neat. And you can still see quite a lot of what's going on in there with this off, which is quite handy. Now we've just got to finish connecting up all these wires and then the test.
So what we've got for that is the original wiring diagram from before, but then because we've got the solar element as well, the heating element in there, it changes to that. So a little bit more complicated, but basically it just has a couple of extra wires that go to the element there, and then another relay and a little controller which turns on that. So there's the main circuit we're powering, which is the chunky red wires here, because that's a 25 amp element, so there's quite a lot of current being drawn through there. But these ones are tiny because it's basically just sending a signal to turn on the electromagnet in there, which then closes the switch. And then we just got to run the wires along the top and into the rest of the kit. Yeah, just following the wire diagram basically. Okay, so the very last connection we have to make is the air sensor. So what we've done for that is we have left this tiny little hole there. Just drop that down like that, and then we just got to open the hatch and just connect that onto the heat exchanger.
Oh.
That is it.
Right.
So we've got a 30 amp fuse for the heating element. Let's stick that in there, and 7.5 for the supply pump for the shower. Can turn on that fuse box now.
Alright, there we go.
And there we go, it's going. So now we just have to wait for it to get up to 40 degrees, yeah. And just got the flap going that way, so yeah, it's taking the air recirculating from the van. So now we've got a tank of hot water. And actually try out the hot shower for the first time.
I guess so.
Oh, I heard water coming up.
Yeah.
Oh.
All these scary noises.
Oh, okay.
Right.
We're pressurised.
Okay.
Right.
Ready?
Ready? Oh, there you go. Is it hot?
It's hot. Wow.
How hot is it tonight?
Yeah.
I mean, well, we know it's 40 degrees, but yeah, it's not too bad.
That's awesome. Yeah.
See how much water you're using up as well. Obviously, when it's recirculated, it'll go back in, but for now, see it going out. So you've drained 3 litres of water already in that time.
Okay.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
I think this is quite a big step forward in our van build. What do you think?
Very. Wow. Been waiting a long time for that, haven't we?
Right, so let's try out the heating element as well. So if we turn on this extra switch here, so if we wire this correctly, that little box will come on. There we go. And then we need to configure it. So there is basically a voltage where the element will turn on after a time delay. So if it hits voltage V1, which we set, after time T1 then it will turn on, and then it will stay on for a while until the voltage drops below V2. Then it'll wait another time delay T2 and turn off. Obviously normally when we set this up we'd have it so that it only comes on when the voltage is quite high, so that there's excess charge, probably around 13.4, and that way it won't drain our battery. But for the test we need to set this lower so it'll actually trigger 12.9, something like that, and then that's the voltage it will turn off at, which is fine. Don't need to change that one, don't change that one, don't change that one, so that's the default. So now we've got this right. Oh, there you go, so it's counting down. So we set a timer of 20 seconds. And we've taken the cover off as well, because there's a little LED on there, so you can see when the cover's off that it turns on. So when that gets down to 0, it should turn on this relay. Let's see. There we go, so the light's on. So what we need to do now is fill up the tank, and as soon as that goes above the level sensor, it should turn on the element. And what's cool as well is we can use the little amp clamp to see what kind of current is being taken from the battery. So I'll just clamp it around that one. Oh, there we go. I heard something click. Oh, that's interesting. So the relay has just gone down again. So it probably, by turning on, it's lowered the voltage. So let's turn that off. Need to adjust the parameters a little bit. So hopefully this time, when it gets above the float, turn on, so it gets on there. Oh, there we go. 26 amps. So it's working. It should now be heating the water with the element inside.
Nice.
You can see, yeah, we're drawing 26 amps of power from the battery, 340 watts-ish.
Nice.
Right, pretty tired now.
Yeah, I need a drink.
Been a good day's work though, hasn't it?
Celebratory drink.
Yeah. Cheers! To hot water.
To hot water. Cheers.
Cheers. So it's been probably about 18-20 hours or so since we were last testing it. So the water was, I think, around 40 degrees when we finished yesterday.
Yeah.
Just curious how much heat we'll still have in the tank.
Yeah, and it's been, what, I don't know, a few degrees overnight.
It's freezing. I think it was like 1 or something. Right. Okay, so 17 degrees.
That's not bad.
So that's not too bad, yeah. And we thought it'd be good to actually test it out with different amounts of water and different settings on the diesel heater, high, medium and low, and actually see how well it heats up. So once the water's full, we can just flick this, and then the air will go through the exchanger, and then at the exact moment that it actually starts doing the circulating, start a stopwatch and see how it does. It's kind of geeky but quite fun.
Okay, so we're going to try 18 litres to 40 degrees. There we go. Okay, pretty impressive.
Minute per litre. So yeah, so I'll carry on going through. It's going to take a little bit of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
one thing that's pretty cool is I can see what the temperature difference is between the air going through the start of the heat exchanger and what's coming out. On the exchanger it says 52.3 degrees, and then coming out the other side, you can see that that one, which I think is a bit more accurate, is shown 25 degrees, and this one here, 28. So roughly half of the energy is being taken out of the hot air and going through to heat the water. So it's just over 2 hours now that we've been heating the tank with only the element. It's nice and warm in there. There we go, 40 degrees in 2 hours 11 minutes. Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. Even though that's quite slow, that's actually really good, because that means that that's just time we're getting for free basically. So if we're out from the van and it's really nice and sunny and there's lots of power being generated, then any of that excess energy can be used to heat our tank, so that by the time we come to use it, it's good to go. This is now really nice and hot. Whoa, yeah, 60 degree water is pretty hot. I don't think you'd want to shower in that.
No, it's boiling.
You can see the water vapor coming out now.
Probably turn this on.
Yeah, this is why we've got the fan right outside the shower, so we can pull out the moisture.
You see how well it's going to work.
Yeah. Good first test.
Yeah, because we're going to have our door, it'll be a sliding door, but we're going to have a crack at the top. So this is hopefully going to pull all the steam out whilst we shower.
Yep. And then we've got obviously the air going in through the bottom, so there should be hopefully good airflow going up behind the door and being sucked out here.
Yeah.
And
you can see it going out.
yeah, you can see it. It's pretty cool. If that doesn't work, we can always put an extra bed in somewhere, can't we?
Yeah.
So we've got the results of all the tests we've been doing, and I think it's safe to say we've tested it pretty extensively. What do you reckon?
Looking at the spreadsheet, I'd say so.
We've tested it with 18 litres and 12 litres, and then with the diesel heater on full power, medium power and low power, and then sometimes with the element on as well when we've got the 18 litre tank. And as you can see, try to keep it fairly consistent with the starting conditions, so the temperature of the water was always around about 10 degrees. But it's quite interesting because what we can see is that on a full power for a big tank of 18 litres, we can heat it up from 10 in 18 minutes, so it's about a litre a minute, which is pretty cool actually. And then if we have the element running as well, that cuts the time down from 18 minutes to 15:43. And you can see that the time to heat 12 litres is also about a minute per litre there, and it's pretty linear, which makes sense of how long it takes to heat that up. And you can see if we switch down to low speed, it takes a lot longer, so just over an hour for that one. And we did one test with the Bobil specs, so they say they can get up to 60 degrees with a 12 litre tank in 20 minutes, and for us it was a little bit more than that. It was 27 minutes 18, but the water temperature was actually pretty cold. It's only 9.3 degrees, so if it was a more of an ambient room temperature, actually probably be pretty much bang on that. So yeah, and what's cool as well is that we can actually work out exactly how much it cost to heat the tank as well, because we know that the diesel pump on the heater puts out exactly 0.02 millilitres every time it pumps basically. And this here, the diesel heater power is, well, this is actually the frequency that the pump is going. So 5.5, the full power setting, is going 5.5 times every second. So we can look at today's diesel price, which was 164.9p, and then if we've done a maths right, we can work out that running the diesel heater on high power for a minute costs basically a penny, and then on low speed drops down to quite nice and cheap 0.3p per minute. So we can then see, to heat up the tank to 40 degrees, 18 litres of water cost us 20p on the high speed, 17p on the medium speed, 20p on the low speed. And what's interesting is you can see that it actually is the same on the low and the high, because even though this is cheaper to run, it has to run for a lot longer, so it ends up being the same. So the sweet spot is actually somewhere in the middle, around about 17p. It's pretty good, right?
Not bad, is it?
Not bad. So in an entire month, pretty much no matter what speed we have the heater on, it costs about £5 if we were filling the tank every day with cold water and doing it every day for 30 days, which is unlikely. It'll actually be less than that because obviously the water, hopefully, is not going to drop down to 10 degrees when we're not using it.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cheap. And to get cheaper still, we did one test with only the element running, which takes a long time. So it took 2 hours to heat it up, but theoretically cost us nothing. Then we thought we'd just do a few more runs just on 12 litres to see what the actual exact sweet spot is. So this is kind of the range from 1.6 to 5.5, and you can see here clearly that the cheapest for us to run the heater, the cheapest setting is at 3.6 hertz, where we can heat a tank of 12 litres for 11.2p. But as you can see as well, the difference between like expensive and cheap, we're talking 13p versus 11p. So not much in it really.
Not really.
So we can probably just not really care about it, which is quite good. So you can see initially it gets a lot faster, and then as it gets to this kind of sweet spot here, it slows down with diminishing returns, and the cost, again, cheapest there, but not really much in it.
Hello, Jackson.
So basically, Jackson, we can heat the van for free, almost, for cheap.
Right, so I think that is it for this video. Very happy now that we've got some hot water.
So good.
At
it's a
last.
big upgrade.
So yeah, what are we up to next?
I'm not sure. Might do some more plumbing under the van, the waste plumbing.
Yeah.
Or maybe something else.
Yeah.
See what takes a fancy.
Don't really know yet. See you then.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.